High stakes leadership. What's it even mean? It means being able to rapidly adapt to meet challenges, to meet uncertainty. So right now, 2020 has certainly brought us challenges and uncertainty. But look, when is being a business person, being an author, running a project, doing creative work of any sort, not uncertain? In other words, we don't know how we're going to get the result we need to get, and we're thrown back on our own resources. Sure, we have skills, capabilities, learnings, methods, and so on, but ultimately we're thrown back to our own personal power, and that's the calling of a high-stakes leader. So this video has got 3 parts. Each one's a game, 3 games or exercises if you like, and they have at the end a graphic to summarize. And then at the end, we have a very short 15-second introduction of the gift and how you can get hold of the gift. Imagine you are in a waiting room. So think of the last time you went to the doctor, for example. And you went there and you checked in at reception, and then you were shown a seat to wait. So you're in the waiting room, right? And one thing for sure is you know that pretty soon someone's going to come and get you. The doctor's going to come and get you, or the front desk, the receptionist is going to come and say, "Hey, John, it's time," and lead you to the doctor's office. And then you get what you want, right? So in this waiting room that we're playing now, nobody comes to get you. You have to get yourself out of the waiting room. And so here's how it works. The question to ask yourself, and it's actually quite good to write this down, and it just makes it more real for you. So the question you ask yourself is, have you had an idea, a project, a creative project, business project that you'd like to have done, and you haven't yet done as much as you'd like to do on that project to bring it home? And if you haven't got a project, have you got a friend who talks about a project but hasn't done as much as they'd like to do on it? So if you or your friend are not doing all you'd like to do on the thing that you'd love to have happen, put up your hand and keep it up if that's been going on for a week. Keep it up if inactivity or stalling has been going on for, say, a month. And if you or your friend haven't done all you could have done, as much as you'd like to have done on your project for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, keep your hand up. And then last question, if it's been going on for a year, keep your hand up that you haven't done as much as you'd like to have done, or your friend hasn't, and the project isn't getting the attention that you really would love to give the project to bring it home. Keep your hand up if it's been going on for a year. So that's the first part. Now, there's a couple of questions, 3 questions actually, and just before we ask those questions, to keep a bit of participation right, I'll tell you that of all the times I've played this, at least 70% of people have their hand up when the year question comes up. It's very common, so don't feel bad if you've had your hand up for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, a year. And look, we're not going to try to fix anything here. This is not a therapy session. So the 3 questions that you ask yourself are simply to identify the consequences. We're not trying to fix anything. So just write down, first of all, what was it that you wanted to have happen? The benefit or the outcome that you wanted the project would have brought home, or can still bring home if you bring home and do the action needed. What is it that you want to have happen? And when you've got that, write down, what did it feel like? What does it feel like not to have done all you could have done? Or what did your friends say that they felt like when they're describing that they haven't done all that they'd love to have done on their project or their idea? What did it feel like? And the third question you ask yourself is this: what did you make it mean about you? So you haven't done, or your friend hasn't done, what all that you could have done to make the project happen. And if it was you, what did you make it mean about you? Or what did your friend say it made them mean about themselves? So I'll give you an example, right? So I had an idea for an electric car. Now, it was just after we'd sold out of a business related to, or a couple of years after we'd sold out of a business related to automotive technology, and I located a university in Australia who had a dedicated area to electric motors. I was talking to the unions and the state government where there was a lot of automotive activity, and bottom line, I didn't do it. I stayed in the waiting room. So I felt, I felt bad about it. I felt foolish looking back. I feel like I lost a really big opportunity. And what that made me mean about myself was that I wasn't really the entrepreneur I cracked myself up to be. I wasn't really the creative person I thought I was, and I wasn't the breakthrough person that I thought I was. Circumstances were more powerful than me in that circumstance. So get something for yourself in that, and then have a look at it this way. Just ask yourself that there's the 3 Ds. This is what I've observed. The three Ds that stop you getting out of the waiting room, stop you doing what you want, asking what you want. Defer, delay, or diffuse. So did you delay because you were trying to get it right, trying to perfect it, and didn't take action, didn't get out of the waiting room because you delayed? Or did you defer because you wanted someone else's advice or opinion or approval? Or did you ask yourself, did you diffuse by simply majoring in minors, getting busy with details rather than going for the outcome? So ask yourself, did you delay, diffuse, or defer? And by the way, there's an exercise that'll be with all the details on the video shortly after. It's part of this video, so you can get into more detail then and ask yourself the questions again. But basically, that's the setup. And so really what happens is we think, because of the way things are structured in our education and society in general, we think we need to fix the 3 Ds. We think we need to fix ourselves, whatever it was that was keeping us in the waiting room, before we take action. But this is not about fixing yourself. This is not, as Tony Robbins calls it, the therapy society we live in. It's not about fixing yourself before you start taking action. It's very, very simple. It's about asking for what you want. So in the example of being in the doctor's office, you're sitting there, it's not happening for you, they're not coming to get you. So what do? You get up, you go to reception, and you ask, hey, been here a little while, what's going on? And they say, oh, John, we forgot about you. Or, oh, John, doctor's been delayed a bit. Can you give us 10 more minutes? But you ask for what you want, and it's really that simple. Now you might think, oh, that's too simple, but think about it. One of the great entrepreneurs of our time, one of my big heroes, Steve Jobs, there's a really good little video on YouTube where it's informal, And he's saying this. The bottom line is, he says that asking for what you want can be the difference between something happening or not happening. So asking for what you want is the difference between something not happening and happening. And then, of course, he says straight away afterwards in the video, he says, oh, and you've got to be prepared to fail. Well, that's where I like to reframe that and say, you ask for what you want, you take action, you course correct, and you take action. So I substitute failure for course correction. You take action asking what you want, primarily. And of course, failure and course correction have a name for us business people, startup people. It's called pivoting, right? So if things are not going as you want, you pivot or you course correct, and you take different action. And that's how simple it is to be a high stakes leader, because if you ask for what you want, take action, course correct, take action, you keep momentum. The person who's going first is well known to be the leader, and a high stakes leader keeps up momentum during uncertain circumstances, which of course 2020 has brought us, and also being a business person, being an author, being a creative of any sort, has a degree of uncertainty at any time, right? So basically, high stakes leader increases their personal commercial value the more they can keep up momentum during uncertainty. That's the calling of the high stakes leader. Think of a time when things didn't go your way and you got upset, you got annoyed, you got angry, or whatever the response is. You mightn't call it those names, you'd have a response. So I'll give you an example. I was in the car driving here, and even though it's April 2020 and there's not much traffic, I managed to get annoyed, slightly angry even, with a driver. Now, that's my example. You think of one. In my case, he wasn't moving as fast, or she wasn't moving as fast, off at the lights or doing something, and it wasn't going my way, so I got a response, and I'm saying I was angry. So you think of a situation and just note that down or keep it in mind. And then the second part is to ask yourself, when you've got that in mind, have you had that kind of response when something hasn't gone your way, similar sort of situation before? Have you had that response or something like that response before? So if you're angry, in my case, the driver, have I behaved like that in my car before towards drivers on the road before? And the answer is yes. Have I said much the same sort of things to myself, even though they can't even hear them? And have I behaved in that way? My physiology, has it been that way before? Has my behaviour been that way before? And the answer is yes, I have. So you think of your situation and you check whether you've behaved much the same way before. It doesn't have to be exactly. We're looking here for the degree to which our thinking and behaviour is repetitive. Now, the example really, apart from my real life example, it'd be, I suppose you could say the analogy would be if we're on Spotify or on iTunes and we really love a song, and we put it on repeat, so it just loops because we like the song. And to an extent, we obviously like the thinking and behaviours, even if they're not all that productive, because we do them again. And look, you know, I've done this exercise many, many times, usually live, so I can actually check with people, and a great percentage of the room will say that they have repetitive thoughts and actions in the same way, much the same way as they've had before when they've responded to the same sort of situation before. So it's quite common, and you know, statistics, anyway, my research and my observation, which I'm calling statistics for this conversation, is that up to 60-70% of our thinking on a daily basis, we're said to have 40, 50, 60,000 thoughts per day, and up to 60%, 70% of those thoughts will be the same thoughts that we've had before. So a percentage of our thoughts are on repeat. We're bringing them from the past into the present. So we're not really in the present. We're not really in our power, you could say, because how can a productive thought, how can it be something from the past? Unless, of course, it's a habit like socks before shoes when you're getting dressed. That's a productive habit for sure. You know, undo the buttons on your shirt before you put your shirt on. Another productive habit. Productive thinking is normally original thinking. When we're having an original thought, it's more likely to contain our best thinking, our originality, and our inspiration. And when we're having an unproductive thought, it's more than likely something repeated. These are not rules, these are not facts, these are things to be aware of and awake in our own personal life. So think of it this way, think of the way to make it real for you, and I'll give you an example again, is when I'm aware of repeating that angry response to the situation not going my way when I'm driving, what's the consequence that I'm awake to? Very simply, I'm not thinking about something that can help me. I'm not thinking about a way to solve a problem that I have. I'm not thinking productively. It's very, very, very easy to see that. And you ask yourself now, what percentage of your repeated thoughts are productive, like socks before shoes is a productive repeated thought, and what percentage of your thoughts are unproductive? Because this is the fundamental question of a high stakes leader. For this one simple reason, ask yourself, what's your most fundamental asset? What's the asset that you rely on a daily basis? And before you say things like, oh, it's my expertise, or it's my knowledge about marketing, or whatever other assets you have, and there are probably many, the most fundamental asset, isn't it? See if you disagree. It's our choice of what we do with our focus. See if you agree or disagree with that. Because choice is the one thing that can choose whether we're going to focus from in the past or we're going to go for what we want. And it's uncomfortable. It's easy to talk about, but it's uncomfortable. It's a matter of being. It's a matter of this. It's not a matter of fixing ourselves or changing these unproductive habits and thoughts, repeated thoughts. It's a matter of being aware and awake and Being aware and awake is uncomfortable. It's a matter of being willing to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Okay, imagine yourself, you're a football player. You're walking out onto the field, you're walking out with your team. There you are in the field. And, oh, wait on, what sort of football are we playing? Is it a round spherical ball? Are we playing soccer or Irish football? Is it an oval ball? Are we playing gridiron, rugby league, rugby union, Australian rules? Now you know how. You choose now what game you're playing. Because now you know how. But everyone knows how. All the team members know how, and the opposition team knows how as well. So what's going to make the difference between winning and losing? What is it? It's the captain saying, okay, these are the strategies, these are the tactics. So imagine yourself the captain now, and you've got to make the play, you've got to set the play. Okay, you've got to say to the team, this is the strategy, this is the next tactic, this is how we do first half, and this is how we do second half, or first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. The tactics and strategies are what wins the game. So think about those as the captain, and related to how you conduct yourself. Are you a person who conducts your business as a how person? You know how to do what you do, you've got your expertise, you've done your 10,000 hours, and you charge per relationship to your expertise? Or are you a person who delivers what someone else wants, which is an outcome, and charge per outcome, which is a higher value equation? To do that, you've got to deliver tactics and strategies as well as how, as well as the expertise. And then take yourself back to being the captain again, and it's pre-time or it's half-time. And you've got to rally the troops. You've got to say, guys, we've got to win this. If we don't win this, we don't get to the third quarter. Sorry, we don't get into the quarterfinals. We don't get to the quarters, we don't get to the finals, right? So what are you going to say to them? What are you going to say? Things like, it's for our fans, it's for our club, it's for the players that have gone before us, it's for the families who've sacrificed so much for us to be players here today. You give them a why. It's what is the why? It's the meaning. You attach a meaning to how they do and what they do. And in commerce, of course, in the last 5, 10, 15 years, why you do what you do has become popularized by Simon Sinek. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And we found that in our marine biotechnology business, it was good for the community, good for the environment, and it was profitable. Very big why, how, and what. Very, very valuable. Very attractive. It was not lost on investors. So why you do what you do, you attach your business to a charity, to a community, to a higher cause, and bring attraction to your business itself. And that increases the value of your business in the eyes of your consumers, your investors. But what's in common between how you do, and why you do it? What's in common there between those three things is the attempt to bring certainty into the game of football, bring certainty into your business or to your life. The certainty is to some extent possible through strategy. The certainty is to a great degree possible through knowing the rules, through having an expertise. The certainty is influenced largely by why you're doing what you're doing, because it galvanizes the team, it galvanizes the customers who are interested in your cause, your charity, your community, your purpose. But what's the higher value equation even still? It's who. So let's say you're the captain and you've got the strategies going. What are you going to do next? You're going to look over your shoulder to the star player. There might be one, there might be two. The playmakers. The players that pluck winning out of defeat, who pluck success out of disaster. And you wink at them or you nod at them to let them know the strategy that's coming up. Because what do you know about them? You know that they operate in uncertainty. You know that they can operate in the high stress of uncertainty because the game is uncertain. You don't know what the opposition's going to do. You don't know where the ball's really going to be at any one time. High stress situation, and you've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and operate powerfully within high stress. And how that relates to being a high stakes leader is the bringing your natural abilities, which we're born with, basically our personal power, is based on our creativity and our capacity to be self-inspired and then to inspire others. The gift is this booklet, 8 pages long, concise, powerful. You'll get it as a PDF, obviously. It's called Pattern Breaker. It really helps being a high stakes leader, getting productivity out of uncertainty. It's got a very powerful exercise in it, and I really highly recommend it.